as long as we are in this cement mixer and we're tumbled and hitting each other against whatever obstacles, we are being refined. But
Mm,
if we're not in that mixer, if that concrete is poured, it's going to solidify and there's no growth there. But as
mm,
long as you're in it, as long as you're struggling and trying to figure stuff out, you are getting better because of the suffering. If there's no
right.
suffering, you're probably walking not so good of a path when there isn't any suffering there. So.
Hey, how you doing? You're now in again with Lionel Mosby Jr., and this is the Lion and the Lambo podcast. And of course, you can catch us on every streaming platform there is, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And also, you can find us on YouTube if you want to catch the visual experience. And we always discuss biblical entrepreneurship, impact, and true success. And so that's why I'm so happy to talk to our dear friend today, Mr. Igor Mateski, correct?
Correct.
Ah, that's awesome, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful outside. It's a temptation to be here.
Yeah, when it's always beautiful outside, we don't want to, be lounging in the house. We want to get
Yeah.
out and enjoy the beautiful weather and the sunshine that the Lord brings. So, man, I'm so happy to have you on. And, I always like to start the podcast off, asking this question to everybody that jumps on, and it is, what is your biggest win as an entrepreneur to date?
In terms of cash or success, whatever that may be for
See,
me.
this is why I like asking it, right? Because you have the ability to determine that, right? And we've had so many different answers. It's been a blessing to see all the different spectrum of what people have considered as their biggest win. And so, I'm
Hmm.
gonna let you determine, what that could be.
All right. So I'd say the biggest one was that it provided the lifestyle to build two SaaS platforms that were in the cooker for 8 years now.
Mm, okay. That's awesome. So what you've done has allowed you to have the lifestyle that you've desired.
Correct. Correct. Lifestyle and cash.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you said SaaS platform. Can you kind of maybe break that down? Explain what is that for those of us uneducated, in that terminology.
Oh, you mean the SaaS? Like, so it's a software as a service.
Hmm.
Uh, Basically, it's a bit of a program that resides on a server online. And instead of downloading the program and using it on the computer, you just access it, just like Google Docs or the platform that we're using for the streaming now. It's a software that's run on a server, so it's a software as a
Mm,
service. You have a small subscription fee, and that's it. There's no ownership of for the end user of the software, but then there's no high ticket fee that they would need to pay early on to buy the software.
wow, that's awesome. And so you have actually created two of those SaaS systems, as you called them.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So if somebody would come and say, Ego, what is it that you do? How do you identify yourself? What would you say to that individual?
Mm. I'm helping individuals, good individuals that run good businesses that do good for their clients, and I'm
Hmm.
helping them reach more of those people and help more of those people by doing scalable digital marketing strategies. So that's
Mm.
kind of like an elevator pitch.
I got you. Okay, so I like how you frame that though, because you say you help good individuals who are
Yeah.
doing good work for their customers, right? To scale.
Mhm.
So I mean, what was it that made you, put frame it like that, right? To say that I want to help individuals that meet this specific kind of, I guess I say interpersonal qualification, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is definitely a personal one.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 12 people on staff, and as a business owner, I'm basically owning that time, and it's going to be up to me to decide whom to reward with that time. of
Mm,
people's lives. And my guys and girls, they're all good people. And I don't want to use
mm,
their time to serve some people that are not really good. They're, abrasive and judgmental and condescending and stuff like that. And that, they do poor service to their clients. So
mm.
that moral first step is kind of like a mandatory thing that I would not pick to work with just about anybody just because they would pay us. There are plenty of clients out there, so we want to pick the good ones and help them.
Wow, that's awesome. That makes perfect sense, right? You know, what I mean, you want your company, but also the individuals in your company, right, to spend that time wisely, just as you
Yeah.
would, right, if it was a one-on-one service. So I'm interested in how you your maybe your discovery process to find out, right, if this person or this company, right, actually fits the mold that is
Mm.
somebody that or a company that you want to work with, right? What kind of process do you take them through in order to find out, like, okay, this is going to be somebody that I feel we can work together based on how their business is structured and how they are as an individual.
Wow, that's unfortunately I haven't worked with one system that fits every use case because on the
Mm,
other line of the call, there's always an individual, always a different person. And when you have two different people working around the same mode, it's going to be difficult to establish like a step by step.
mm-hmm,
That being said, a first chat on Facebook, usually I do my lead gen on Facebook, a first chat is going to be good enough to have this like sixth sense if this person is good or not. And it doesn't take much for a person to reveal their ego or their quirks. Um, and I tend to quickly segue into faith and work. And when we start talking about faith and work, then it's not really about religion, but what kind of faith do you have? What kind of mental construct do you use? And
mm-hmm,
if the mental construct is, well, I'm up for grabs, and whoever comes my way, I'll try to take as much money from them as possible. And for the
mm-hmm,
service, yeah, there's always a new victim. There
mm,
are ways that you can kind of tell if the person is honest or not,
mm,
especially around vulnerability. I usually lead with vulnerability, and if there's a reciprocal like openness and say, well, yeah, I'm not perfect, it kind of is a good indicator that the person has gone through a lot or enough to have suffered to understand that I don't have it all together, but help
mm.
me get stuff better now.
Wow. That's good. That makes sense. I like how you say you lead with vulnerability. And it's kind of interesting
Mm.
to see that you have you use what they do for their clients or how they view the person on the other end of their service. That's a large part of what you're looking at and looking for in determining whether you want to work with that company or not.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, right, if we're not looking to serve, right, it kind of shows, right, a little bit
Mm.
about where we maybe are at that time and at that moment as a business owner or entrepreneur, right? Obviously, doesn't mean we can't get a new lenses, right? But at
Yeah.
least at that time, right, if
Yeah.
we're looking at if we're looking at people that we're supposed to be serving as the next victim, that's not going to
Mm.
bode well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You become part of the problem. I become part
yes,
of the problem.
yes, because now
Uh,
you're increasing their ability to create more victims, right?
yeah.
Because as you said earlier, right, you are creating scale. You're helping business to scale, right, through these digital services that you're providing. Now, I'm wondering,
Mm.
before we move forward, right, I'm wondering, was there something in your process, right, as an entrepreneur yourself, right, and growing your business that caused you to start to put that kind of in place to say, you know what, let me actually do a little bit more digging up front to find out if this individual is a good person
Yeah.
to work with me. What happened or transpired to say, okay, I need to do this, moving forward
Mm.
for myself and for my, employees.
Unfortunately, it was two instances of Christians uh,
Mm,
not playing ball well. Uh,
mercy.
and I mean, it's very easy to put across and to say the right words and to act in the right way. But under pressure, real character comes through. And in
Mm,
several high pressure situations, these two guys didn't really do the bare minimum required or expected from a person that claims that they follow Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and that made me think long and hard about who do I serve with my work.
Mm.
It's not enough for somebody to say, "Oh well, I'm a Christian and go to church." Well, big deal. So what? So there's like millions of other people, they go to church but they don't follow Christ.
Right.
And it kind of shows in how you treat your people, how you treat your suppliers, me being one of them. Um, and it's a simple thing, you know. If you don't pay your workers,
Mm.
how do you follow Christ?
Mm.
So it was
Mm.
pain that led me to be more picky of who to work with.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what happens, right? And I think a lot of us, as we go through our process of growing a business, that's a part of the process at the end of the day. And especially if we don't have maybe a coach or something like that that's guiding us, right? That means there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. I
Mhm.
remember early on in my experience working I did video photography for many years. And I remember one time I actually agreed to do an edit for someone, and I also agreed that they would be there while I edited, and that was the worst a choice I could have ever made in my life, right? You know what I'm saying? Something that should have been super quick, super easy turned into a gigantic thing, right? You know what I mean?
Mm.
But again, right? So now that helped me to learn. Okay, that I learned a lesson from there. This other situation helped me learn a lesson from here. This other situation with this client made me say, okay, I need to put these things in place, right? So all of these are things that help us along the way, along the path, right? And again, it's similar to, that's why I always call it biblical entrepreneurship. I mean, it's similar to our walk in faith with God Himself, right? That along our way, as He's seeking to refine our characters, we see things that I always fall when I'm in this position or this situation, or I trip up over here. I need to start putting, Lord, help me to put these parameters in place so that way I
Mm.
can stay connected and focus on you, right? It's this same process of refining, and we do that same thing in our business that we do in our personal and our spiritual lives, right? And us as entrepreneurs need to understand, not be, we need to learn that the lessons, these losses that we say, or these L's that we take, are important because they will teach us and help us
Yeah,
at this point in our life, so that later on down the line we don't have to make the same mistake again. But we don't need to
exactly.
drown in those mistakes, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was. I think it was Jordan Peterson that had one of his tweets like a week ago that says,
Uh-huh.
"Life is suffering."
Mm.
Like, well, life contains suffering, but life is growth. But if you
Yes.
don't suffer, you're not going to grow. And I'm thinking of we're, as long as we're in this cement mixer and we're tumbled and hitting each other against whatever obstacles, we are being refined.
Mm.
But if we're not in that mixer, if that concrete is poured, it's going to solidify and there's no growth there. But as
Mm.
long as you're in it, as long as you're struggling and trying to figure stuff out, you are getting better because of the suffering. If there's no
All right.
suffering, you're probably walking not so good of a path when there isn't any suffering there. So,
Mm. That's interesting. So, that's a good segue, right? Because, I would like for us to maybe go back now and kind of hear a little bit about how you got to the point to where you are now, right? To where you have these
mm,
successes as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, to where you're now in a position where you're not only taking care of yourself and your family, but now you actually have employees that you're able to pay that then can take care of their families, for example,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but where did this start, right? Where did this thought process of going into entrepreneurship or owning your own business, right? What did you first have that thought process or mindset to say, I need to do something on my own that I can,
Mm.
forge my own path.
I, I grew up in a sort of entrepreneurial family, so making
Mm-hmm.
money was like a given. You
Mm.
have to make money if you want to have them and use them for life.
Right.
Um, there was a little bit of a pause of that entrepreneurial mindset when I've gone into ministry and then gone to seminary.
Mm.
And I think like uh, the point of origin of this tree of business that's growing now, I'd say it was in a theology dorm room
Mm.
where my laptop died conveniently after 13 months, expired warranty, and that's it. So I was broken without a laptop in a foreign country with no backup. I was like, I
Mm,
have to fix this thing. So I spent a year researching what the problem is. I have electronics background, by the way, so it was
mhm.
sort of like a background work for me. So I fixed it after a year of research, and I've documented it, and I placed it on Blogspot, I think it was called back then.
Okay.
Uh,
I remember
didn't know
Blogspot.
anything about landing pages or Google Analytics or traffic or making money online. Nothing of that was familiar. But then I realized that there is something that can help you understand how many people are visiting your blog. So I put analytics on it, and I was surprised and shocked to see that there are 200 to 300 people coming every day on that blog and reading how I fixed the laptop. And I was thinking,
Wow.
there's money to be made here.
Mm,
So I took off the blog post, created a PDF from it, and I've just left a small excerpt of the text just so that people would start reading and understand that okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. It seems that he has the solution. And at the end of of that short excerpt, it was if you want to read the rest, here's my PayPal, make a payment, I'll email you the PDF. So that was the starting point. With
mm,
one PDF that I've created and started marketing it on forums, didn't even know what backlinks are or anything. And then after a couple of years, the laptop was too outdated for anybody to care. But I had 2 years of experience of marketing and of web development. So I said, okay,
mm.
well, this is what I have now. So I started using that, and there was one client and another one, and that's basically how it all started.
Wow. Wow. It's awesome to me how it always, everything revolves around what you are, what do you have right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's all God is seeking for us to do, and for us to believe that what we have in our hands, right, what we have available, is valuable to
Mm-hmm.
somebody. I think I was in a Myron Golden's mastermind where he talked about and spoke about that there's already hundreds, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who need what you already have right now. Not
Mm-hmm.
even you getting more skills, not even you growing your knowledge, right, more, as we all
Mm-hmm.
should, but even at the point of where you are right now in your life and in your experience. So my question is, how did that first client that you had, um, how did that process come about? Would you actually acquiring them and starting to work with them, right? What was that conversation like, right?
Uh, so John found me on Google. He was the very first client, and he still is a client. So this is 12 years now. Uh, Straight shooter, solid guy. He found me on Google search while looking for affordable web development services,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently something that I wrote back in I don't know 2009 ranked for that phrase, and
Okay.
he found me, and we started talking about his business. Back then, there was no filter for choosing clients. It was like whoever comes gets served. And he was doing a bit of a side gig with some numismatic coins. I didn't even know what that is, but I've learned it obviously. And we've
Mm-hmm.
created for him one website, and then he kind of went away and then came back for his car restoration shop business.
Mm.
And so that was the first client who again still is a client and a friend.
Wow.
You befriend people, and I like that. Not just building websites and growing businesses, but making friends as well. So.
Mm. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And so now, I mean, obviously you've grown to be able to work with multiple different clients
Mm.
all over, the world. When you talking about working or first connecting with the client, what is kind of that first process like, and actually seeing, or how do you kind of go about finding out what they really need help with? Because I can imagine that a lot of people come and say, "Hey, this is my particular problem," or "This is the thing that I need help with." But because you've been doing it for so long now, you connect with them and say, well, really, this is an issue, but it's because this and this is an issue, right? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So how do you kind of go about that problem of dissecting, right, and even consulting, these individuals as they're approaching?
Yeah, it's mostly asking questions and being a very attentive listener.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, people will not. Non-technical. Most of the people are non-technical. I again come from an electronics background. I have mechanical engineering uh, study, and then there's years and years of working with anything from hardware to networking and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's easy to understand the technical stuff, but for most people that go into the business, they think that, like, if I don't know, if I'm starting a car restoration shop, it's not at least it's not technology technical.
Mm-hmm.
But online, if you're online, it is already a technical thing. The website is an IT product. It
Right.
does have a business role, but at the base, it's code, it's software. So people don't
Mm.
really understand that. They think that it's just a black box that works just like that. And when we start talking, they start saying, well, the site doesn't really look well on iPhone. It loads slowly. It's outdated. It doesn't look as good as the competition. I don't
Mm.
have enough content. I don't have good images. And with that conversation, people are already identifying the problems because we are saturated with media, and it's easy to say, well, this one's good website. This one is not a good website. You
Mm-hmm.
can't tell why. It just doesn't click. Um, and after we go with those obvious ones, then we can go into deeper issues of maybe the server is not good, maybe the website was built on a shoestring budget,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's time to just scrap everything and start from scratch. um,
Right.
but it's usually just asking question and letting them talk.
Gotcha. So it's all about digging in, and I always think about Christ, right? Because he's always asking questions, right? And those questions help to dig, and to get to the bottom, to the root of issues. Sometimes when the individual approaching is not recognizing what the real issue is. So I think that's a very important point that you're making, and something that you know we can take into all of our businesses. That hey, we need to really be asking better questions.
Mm.
We'll get better answers once we start asking better questions. So I wanted to say too, you're working with these people, right? And you're kind of digging into finding out what the different issues are. Well, I mean, do you have a situation or a story with one client and how you connecting with them? I know you've been a blessing and benefit to so many individuals, right? But is there one that kind of sticks out the most of saying like, man, I was able to help this particular company this way, and it literally changed and revolutionized what they were able to do, and how they're able to
Mm.
serve their clientele, and maybe it just hit you a little bit home, a little more, right? A little bit more in the heart because of maybe the service they provided or maybe their story or situation.
I'd have to say that is my first client, John. I've mentioned him. He was going through a very rough period. So he moved. I think he was somewhere up in New York and moved down
Mm-hmm.
to Florida. So in New York, he was known for his car restoration work, but in Florida, nobody knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking one night, and he was, Bud, I have this one spot, corner lot, great for a car restoration shop, but it's I don't know how many times above his budget. But he says, then I found another one, which is a bit in a hidden alley, bigger place, bigger building, better building, for less money, but it's off the beaten track. And I'm saying, dude, you don't need an expensive road, an expensive real estate. Your website is going to be your real estate. So we spent like probably a month in thinking, okay, we need to establish the business here. So what's it going to be called? And he started thinking about these uh, pumped up machines type of of language, and I'm saying, well, who is really your ideal client? Is it going to be some tattooed, muscular guy who drives a Harley to pick up bread, or you're going to get somebody who is a paper pusher for all his life, and now he's finally in retirement and has enough money to buy his dream car? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's the latter one. And I'm saying, well, if it's the latter one, you can't really use aggressive branding because it doesn't fit your audience.
Mm.
And long story short, we registered a different name for the website that he planned. So
Mm-hmm.
that saved him probably tens of thousands of dollars a year on rent, which he reinvested in digital marketing. And now he says, "But no more marketing." This was December 2021. He says, "No more marketing. I'm booked for 2022 completely." I'm like, okay, my job is done.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great.
Wow. And that was through just drawing leads into his website.
That's just me writing good copy, not some machine generated stuff. And
Mm.
it's ranking well. It's pulling a lot of traffic, and I mean, yeah, he's literally rejecting offers. He
Wow.
booked 2022 for a few $1 million. I don't know how much. So
Wow. That's
yeah.
awesome. And so what I mean, what type of companies have you worked with or have you helped, right? Because that's something that, that's a car restoration service. That's a very particular, right?
Mm.
Market, right? And clientele base, like you were telling them. So what are the, maybe some different type of companies that you've actually helped?
So I have those exotic industries. So that's automotive with the car restoration shop. I have mechanical engineering slash physics. They did
Mm,
some sensor development that's used in NASA and U.S. Army.
wow.
Intel, I think, is their client as well. I have a software company that serves government agencies, three-letter acronyms that we should not mention. We even built a government website, a .gov website for one
Mm,
of those agencies.
mm,
And the more down to earth businesses would be repair shops, home improvement shops.
mm.
Um, we've had several clients that are like real estate investment courses. That's what they sell. Um, what else do we have? Recipes. We have one lady on the West Coast. She does recipes for a living, and she has a
Mm,
huge business with it.
mm.
Um, what else? There's probably a bunch that I'm
Wow.
missing.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
but
lot though, and that's a very broad, that's a very broad sweep, right, of different type of industries. And I guess that shows, that in every industry, every business, right, needs, a web presence and needs to really refine it. And I think and a lot of people just kind of get online and just kind of stick to something there, right? You know what I mean? But
yeah,
they haven't gone through the process of thinking and right, really considering like, okay, like what is this thing actually doing for me? Um, as far as like actually helping the business to grow and to actually scale up. For you, right, as you're coming in, and working with the new client, what are some of the first things that you maybe will point their attention to show like, hey, this is why this particular thing is important, or maybe a particular strategy or that walk them through. Of course, there's different industries, right? But maybe is there like a base type of framework that you're using as you're working with them?
yeah. It's getting down to the basics. People buy from people. People
Mm,
don't buy for companies, people don't buy from websites. So if the website does not have that people dimension in it, you're
mm,
gone. And I see that there are so many websites that say, uh, we fix tires, we make furniture, we launch rockets into space, whatever. It's like, who cares what you do? What can you do for me? So it's
mm,
people first and customer first in the copy. So when I'm scanning through the website, can I identify who the target audience is? Can I identify
mm,
the brand personality? can I quickly understand what they're offering? Can I understand why I should do it, do business with these guys instead of the next competitor in Google? So
Mm,
these are like the 4 or 5 key questions that are very difficult to answer, and that's why we have websites that are not optimized. And the economy on a global scale suffers because of those unoptimized websites, which is most of them, unfortunately.
And what do you mean that? I mean, it suffers. How do you see that it suffers because the
Um,
websites aren't optimized?
so I was reading, actually listening to Rory Sutherland from Ogilvy,
Okay.
a big company in UK, and he was citing McKinsey actually, and they've done a research that says that out of the global economy, which is $95 trillion a year, if we could optimize all of the websites for decision making, we would boost the economy for 3%. That's three
Mm,
trillion dollars a year. And when you take that into perspective, cut it to daily revenue increase. That's $8.2 billion per day that we could pump into the economy because of optimized websites.
mm,
Another interesting fact is that to eradicate world abject poverty, you need $6.2 billion a day. So if we optimize all of the websites, we've solved global hunger. And
mm.
that's my why. I'm in this business to do my part in optimizing the websites of the world so that we can generate more money, take
Mm.
money out of that economy, and donate it to those people that can't.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. And,
eradicating poverty.
and it makes sense, right? And that is, I guess, when you talk about brand identity and things like that, um, that connects with your brand identity, right? Of why now you say, I want to work with good individuals who have good companies who are doing good service, right? Because that also frames this individual or this person, this company, right, as someone who, when the money flows to them, they have that heart or that character, right? Their money will flow out to take care of other needs, maybe in the community they're in, or based
Hmm.
on something that they're seeking to do as well, to service and to help other people. And so that makes sense, like all the way around. It's like
Yeah.
connecting, all the dots there, at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, us doing business is co-working, collaborating with God as He's
Mm,
fixing the world, and that is not just it's actually a Jewish idea that God is
mm,
fixing the world and He's calling us to co-work with Him, to be co-workers in the
mm.
field that He's working, and it's a privilege to be called into that kind of work.
Wow.
And if we don't respond, God may cancel the call or call somebody else. So when you see that, like with Moses, with the burning bush, when Moses hesitates to respond to the calling of God to go to Pharaoh and challenge Pharaoh, speak truth to power, says, I'm not equipped, and God says, well, what do you have in your hands? Well, I have this staff. Okay, so with that staff you will do miracles, or I
Yeah.
will do miracles. And what we have in our hands today is enough for God to do miracles, and those miracles don't have to be splitting of the Red Sea. It could be feeding, uh, that hungry kid just down the street, or helping a
Mm,
single mom with her car, or talking to a guy who's going through burnout. It's
mm.
the possibilities that we have to influence people to make the world a better place. They're infinite,
Right.
and doing business is a great vehicle to do that.
Right. Right. No, that makes a lot of sense, right? That is the vehicle that God, one of the vehicles that God definitely gives us to do those things and to impact the world. I know we're coming to a close here, but I did want to ask you, right? For somebody or for a business out there that says, Igor, I recognize that my website, that my online presence isn't optimized. I just don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Um,
Mm.
what would you tell them, right? If you were, had a chance to be in their ear for just 30 seconds to a minute to say, okay, you don't have the funds, right, not necessarily to go out and hire a third party to come in, right? This is what you need to focus on right now. This is your next 1, 2, 3 steps, for example, right? What would you
Yeah.
tell
So those are the basic question. Know your why. Why are you in the business? So that
them?
there is a passion behind what you're going to say on the website. Know who you serve, so that you can address them appropriately. And there is never this group, this demographic, or whatever. It's going to be a Joe Smith with exact and meaty details about his life.
Mm-hmm.
What are his pain points, his frustrations, what's keeping him up at night, at, at night, what's driving him forward, so that you can address those things in your copy. Otherwise, you're not going to make the click. Um, and then it's going to be, know your work. You better be good at what you're doing, because otherwise, if you don't do good service, you're part of the problem. You could be called. You could be a
Yeah.
Tony Robbins fan of and have signature T-shirts and whatever. You gotta be an expert in what you're doing. Otherwise, you're creating more problems. So learn your
Mm.
craft. Keep Christ centered. It's for His glory, not for
Yes.
yours, and He's gonna enable you to do stuff.
Mm.
Uh, Share your vision with your team.
Mm.
Keep your why in focus. Figure out who you are as a person, so that you work out of your strengths instead of out of your weaknesses.
Right. Right.
Um, so and with the website, it's going to be look at the website with human eyes. How
Mm-hmm.
would your client understand your website? Are you too talkative, or you talk too little, or you're not congruent, or you're talking in passive tense and you're boring everybody to death?
Right.
Um, and outsourcing a website build could be the smartest thing that you could do,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a lot of skills, psychology, and business acumen, and technology wise and design. um, you're not going to win any races with a kit car. So
Right. Right.
and
No, for sure.
outsourcing is not that expensive. I mean, don't go to some shady kids that are going to say we're going to build everything for $200, because you're just going to lose this $200. But find a reputable company.
Right.
uh, there are plenty of them out there. Mine is
Mm.
one of them. We're offering very competitive prices compared to most of the agencies that we've seen. And unfortunately, skills wise, it turns out that they overbill,
Mm.
at least compared to what we do. So
Right. Right. Well, that is something that I think is so important, right? Because I always like to say there's a lot of members in the body, right? There's different body parts, right? Different
mm,
roles, different functions. And if we all just function well in our role, everything be good, right? Let the arm be the arm, let the leg be the leg,
yeah,
let the
yeah,
knee be the
yeah,
knee, right? And so there's people out here like Igor, right, who have that ability to have that skill set, right, to help to turn something that you would take a year to even get the basics to figure out. But what if you had that year back because you just
yeah,
connected with somebody who actually knew what they were doing in that area? Just as you, right? We should connect with you in the area that you have that level of expertise in, right? And now we're all functioning our roles and we can work well together. So, man, Igor, I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing a little about your story, right? About what you do and how we need to optimize our sites, right? Not just for our business, but most importantly, right, for that why that we have, right? And that
mm,
why needs to be bigger than just us, bigger than even just our families, but it needs to be
yeah.
about the impact that we can have on the world. How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out and find out a little bit more about your services and how maybe they can contract with you, right, to get their optimization game, on point?
Yeah. So my website, webmaxformans.com, is online for 12 years now. I'm on Facebook regularly. You can reach out to me. Just look me up on Facebook for Igor Mateski. I'm a pretty open networker. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Igor Mateski. I'm on Twitter at iMateski. But the best channel is going to be Facebook still, and
Mm.
the website.
Awesome, man. And we'll put those links in the description of all the places where you can find us. Of course, YouTube, if you want the visual experience. If you're looking to find out where we are streaming at, you can go to www.lionandthelambo.com, and all the streaming platforms that we're at are through that website. But again, man, we want to thank Mr. Igor for coming on and share with us. We thank you for listening in, right? And for watching,
Yeah.
right? Paying attention. And we pray that you can take this information and actually assimilate it to your life, right? That it actually helps for you to grow your business, for you to scale up, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about the work that we can do for the benefit of others. So until next time, go impact the world.